Today, I'm covering the top 5 B2B cold email techniques that are proven to work and will immediately start getting you better results, especially if you're a new SDR, an existing SDR, or even an account executive. My name's Connor Murray. I've been in enterprise software sales for over 6 years now. I started as an SDR, worked my way up to the enterprise account executive role at a Fortune 100 company. And a lot of my success has come through cold email. And not only that, I have coached hundreds of reps to get better results over cold email during my 2 years as an SDR manager. Today, I'm breaking down the 5 most important techniques that are easy to implement and will start getting you better results. So we're going to cover all of them, starting with what I call coiling the spring, which is my process for being much more efficient, reducing the day-to-day drudgery that normally slows you down. We're going to talk about having a repeatable framework so that you can move fast at scale at a high quality. And I'm going to give you real examples that have worked not only for me, but many reps I've taught it to you that you can copy, paste, and implement immediately. I'm going to be covering the difference between assumptive language and passive language. Passive language is probably killing your emails right now and how to easily fix that. I'm going to talk about less being more. I think most people understand that these days. You got to be concise. You only have a few seconds sometimes. And then lastly, arguably most importantly, I'm going to be covering the AB cadence to implement, which is essentially a follow-up strategy to put this all into autopilot and gamify the SDR job for you. So first, coiling the spring for maximum efficiency. I want everyone to just pause, take a step back for a second, and think about what you normally do on a day-to-day basis to start before you're able to start sending out cold emails. Probably look something like you look at your territory, you segment it a bit, you maybe start picking your accounts and what accounts am I going to target today? You pick a few, you start adding those contacts to lists. Which one? First, I got to find them. Which ones are relevant? And let me click on that person's LinkedIn. Then it's like, what do I even say to these people? Now I got to start creating email templates. Before you know it, your day started at 8 a.m. and it could be 10:30 in the morning before you're actually comfortable starting to send out emails that you're crafting, oftentimes one by one. This is a really inefficient way to go about your day. It adds a lot of friction. And some days you're going to be more motivated than others. Some days maybe you get right after that. That only takes you 30 minutes. Other days you wake up slow and that takes you till 11 a.m. Some days you're going to be more motivated than others. You need to start getting into your flow as quickly as possible. And all of this causes you to rush and cut corners on a daily basis. You're like, oh, it's 10 a.m. I haven't even gotten started. Let me just add some random contacts. Let me create a pretty average template and just start sending it out. This is really going to diminish your results over time. And there's a way more effective way to do this that I call coiling the spring. So what does that look like? It looks like doing everything I was just talking about, doing all of that mundane daily work up front. So yes, segment your territory. But what I'm saying is at the start of the quarter, call it 2 or 3 days, spend nothing, all of your time doing this, coiling the spring, all of that day-to-day stuff you would be doing over the course of a fiscal year, or let's take it on a quarter by quarter basis or even month by month basis. Do this all up front. Spend a day or two doing it. So segment your territory, figure out which ones are your best, most strategic targets, your A accounts, then your B accounts, then your C accounts. Identify what are the most common personas that I reach out to and what are our most common or our most successful sales plays, because this is who you're going to want to focus on, your best ICPs and your best sales plays first. Then create all of your lists for the month or the quarter. I like to do it quarterly. This is probably going to change depending on where you work up front. And the list should be as homogeneous or as similar as possible. I'm going to talk more about this in a second, but you don't want to create lists that are all random people that work at random companies and have random job titles. You want them to be as similar as possible, because what this allows you to do is then make targeted templates for each of those ICPs or each of those sales plays, again, up front. So you spend a few days doing this, and if you do it right, you may not have to do any of this on a day-to-day basis. In my experience, you can go up to like 3-4 months. You can even go longer than that. It depends on how much time you have to do this. But then every day when you sit down, you can just focus on execution rather than having all of this friction that's causing you to slow down and be less productive. So what types of lists should you be building? I just alluded to that a second ago. Here are 4 of the most effective, most common ones I think you should start out with. First is the relevant personas in your top accounts. So make account lists for your top accounts, filter. You can do this in Sales Nav, But depending on how big your territory is, you can do all of them or maybe just your top ones, but get your top accounts and then all the lists of relevant personas. Let's say you prospect into finance and HR people. There's probably like 30, 40 personas under each umbrella. Just get all of the possible relevant ones and just call it X account list. The next one you can do, and here's where it starts to get more efficient, in my opinion, is not doing it necessarily by account, but by department. So they don't necessarily have to work at the same account, but you can make lists by finance personas in my territory, HR personas in my territory, IT personas in my territory. Then you can make lists by specific personas within those departments. So let's take finance, for example. There's like 30 different personas that could fall under that. Some examples: controllers in my territory, accountants in my territory, financial analysts in my territory, VPs of FP&A in my territory. Same thing with HR. It could be recruiters, talent management, CHROs, because the more of these lists you build out, you can create email templates that are similar. And we're going to show some examples in a second, but slightly targeted to be more specific to all of these lists, so that when you wake up in the quarter, you have all your lists ready, you have the associated templates ready, and you can just focus on execution and start going. One layer deeper you can take it is list by department or list by persona, but also by industry. So life science finance personas, life science IT personas, life science HR personas. A lot of people and a lot of you that I've worked with, you don't necessarily support a specific industry. So you can do this for each industry. And now we can create a template that's targeted for finance people in life science, for IT people in life science. And this is how you can set it up, coil the spring, set yourself up for the ability to move fast at a high quality. So now we get to tip number 2, which is have a repeatable framework. So now we're going to build on everything we just did, coiling the spring. Again, the goal is to remain high quality at scale. And despite what you see out there on LinkedIn, a lot of people say it's not possible. Yes, this is possible. It just takes a lot of work up front that most people aren't taught to do the right way. So it should not take you 20 minutes to write an email, and it should not even take you 5. That's not going to help you be high quality at scale. There's 3 key questions you need to answer in every email, regardless of what company you're reaching out to, what persona you're reaching out to, what the sales play is. You need to clearly articulate who you are, why you are reaching out to them, and what you want from them, which is typically time on their calendar. The why you're reaching out is typically what challenges and priorities that you solve or focus on and how you solve them. Again, I'll show some examples in a second. So this is going to remain very similar for the majority of prospects and sales plays that you're targeting. So you want to use language, priorities and challenges, and outcomes in these templates that are targeted to specific personas and lists that you have built in that coil the spring process. So again, example I was shown before: finance template, the life science finance template, controller template, life science controller template. They're going to be very similar. They're all going to be similar in length and structure, but my template for controllers might be a little bit different. Some of those challenges or priorities that I say I work on are going to be a little bit different than just a VP of FP&A. That they tend to focus on a little bit different priorities. And here's the caveat I'll say: before you jump and get too targeted and like really go in the weeds here, start at the top. Start with the most common departments and common personas you target before you get down to the industry level, because this takes a lot of work. So if you're a new SDR, just get that foundation in place of your most common personas and your most common sales plays before you start doing department, persona, and industry. That's going to come over time. So what I say is, do it once, do it right. Again, start with the most common personas. Don't cut corners though. A lot of people, they cut corners on the messaging. They know it could probably be better, but then they just start firing out the emails anyway. And it's like, you're about to spend all of this work. Don't cheap out on the messaging. And that's what I'm hoping this video is going to help you do, is help you put good messaging into place. Once you create an effective template, you will likely not need to edit very much from there. So your finance template or your HR template should be most relevant to most people in finance or most people in HR, regardless of the company that they work at. So you shouldn't need to do all this research before you email every single contact or like check out their LinkedIn. So I'll show a few examples here. Here's an example of a finance template. So similar structure, who I am, why I'm reaching out, and stating what I want. My name's Connor Murray, and I'm part of the ABC Financial Applications team responsible for supporting XYZ company regarding back office applications. Given your role, I'm looking to introduce our team and get aligned with your priorities going forward. My team works on priorities related to, and here's where I start to input some of those finance priorities and challenges: strategic planning, budget forecasting, and financial reporting. We work with our customers to automate account recs and much of the close process, and that should say focus on implementing predictive planning capabilities. Will be your main points of contact for any initiatives in these areas or resources you may need going forward. I'm looking to set some time this week to introduce you to my team. Do either of the following dates work? Blank, blank. Thanks in advance, Connor. So I put in yellow here. These are the only areas you need to change. So if you had a list of 100 finance people, this is gonna likely be very relevant to most of those finance people. And the only things you'd really need to change, well, one, you wouldn't even need to change this, just put your company name, but just change their company name and then their name, obviously. The rest of this can largely stay the same because you spent the time to make an effective template up front. I'll talk about towards the end of the video why I think this is an effective template, how it's concise and how it answers those 3 questions. But let's go to the next example now. Now, life science finance. So the last one was just finance. This one is going to be industry-specific finance. Notice how the email almost looks the exact same from a structure and length standpoint. The parentheses are the same. First sentence is entirely the same. And then this one, I say, my team specifically works with life science organizations, so a little bit more targeted on priorities related to, now these are finance priorities specific to life science: clinical trial planning, budget forecasting, and commercialization. We work with our customers to unify data from clinical trials and enhance portfolio planning through the use of AI and machine learning. So we'll be your main points of contact, blah, blah, blah. The rest of that is the same. But that's an example of how you can take this repeatable framework, not have to change that much, but you can make it more targeted and more specific. Now, if I have 500 people who work in finance roles in life science companies in my territory, this is likely going to be a very good starting point and effective email template for most of them. Last example I'll show now is a different line of business. Again, just showcasing how you can keep the structure the same regardless of who you're reaching out to. You just need to take the time to focus on how can I make this slightly more targeted for all these lists I've built. So the first sentence or 2 is still the exact same. My name's Connor Murray, part of the blank team, responsible for supporting blank company regarding HRIS, human resource information systems applications. Given your role, looking to get introduced. My team works on priorities related to, same structure, but now I've said talent management, workforce planning, and new hire onboarding. We work with customers to align talent to business strategy and retain top talent through exceptional employee experience. Will be your main points of contact, blah, blah, blah. So again, set this right once. I could do this for supply chain. I could do this for marketing. I know a lot of you watching have a whole host of different personas and different sales plays that you run. You can really get granular with this, but I'm just trying to show you how having a repeatable framework can help you move fast at scale and remain targeted. So now we get to tip number 3. This is probably my favorite because it's probably the quickest way to start improving results, especially for new SDRs, but oftentimes it's even tenured people who still use excessive passive language in their emails. So there's a lot of different takes on what the best email structure is out there. I know there's like Gong data and all this. You see this on LinkedIn. In my opinion, your messaging should imply that a meeting will be taking place, not asking if they're interested in a meeting, if they're open to it, is this worth a chat? None of that. You want to imply that the meeting is taking place. And this is because you are important to them and this call will be a value add. If you actually believe your company can help them, I don't know how many times I've essentially kind of brute forced my way to a meeting through assumptive language on email. They show up to the meeting and then it ends up being an extremely productive meeting. You just have to get them there. And the other thing is this makes them tell you no. When you say things like, if you're interested, I'd love to, if you have time, is this worth a chat? Oftentimes that just leads to a lot of no responses. It doesn't feel like they have to respond. It feels optional. So you need to make them tell you no. You're assuming this meeting is going to happen. Make them tell you no. And part of this comes in the follow-ups, which I'm going to show you the follow-ups I use in a second in this video. but otherwise they won't feel the need to respond and your request sounds too optional. So I'm going to spoon feed it here. Here are the most common examples I see of passive language. And just by eliminating these and replacing them with assumptive language, you'll immediately improve the results of your email templates. So some examples: I was hoping to, I'd love to, I'd like to, if you're interested in meeting, or if you're available. You put these little caveats on it because you're trying to be polite. You're trying not to be overbearing, but this just leads to them not responding. So things like, when you may have time, do you possibly have time? Here's what you want to replace it with. You can keep the email template, like forget the structure I just showed you. You should take the time and try out that structure because it's proven to work, but just take your existing email templates and take out all this language you see that looks like this and replace it with, instead of I was hoping to set up some time, to I'm looking to set some time. Let's set some time this week. Either way, I'm looking to, let me know what time works best. Looking forward to getting connected. This is all, and there's more examples. I'm just trying to give you a sense here. This is I call it assumptive alignment. You're assuming this meeting is going to take place, and they're going to have to tell you no for you to go away, essentially. So here's an example. I'll show you how to take a common example of an email template I see. I put in red all of what I find to be passive language. Now you can take this same exact email template just by replacing the passive with more assumptive. Look at the night and day difference. I mean, everyone has their opinion. Let me know in the comments what you think. But here's an example. I hope this message finds you well. I'm part of the blank team that supports all things pertaining to blah, blah, blah. We work with many organizations on process transformation, and I wanted to reach out to hopefully set up the time to see how we can potentially act as a resource. I would love to set up time next week for a 15-minute call to get a better understanding and see how we can be of assistance to you and your team. Warmest regards. So a lot of this is just how my brain works when I scan these emails. Like, these are all language that I don't see as a value add. They're either blank statements that should be removed or replaced, or that makes the meeting sound optional. Like, I would love to set up some time. We don't have to, but I would love to, and hopefully set up a time, same thing. So here's how you can replace it and make it more assumptive. Hi, blank. My name is Connor Murray. I'm part of the ABC marketing automation team responsible for supporting XYZ. Our team works on priorities related to blah, blah, blah. I'm looking to, so instead of I would love to set up some time, I'm looking to set 15 to 20 minutes next week in order to introduce myself and get aligned with your priorities going forward. That sounds a lot better to me than get a better understanding or see how we can be of assistance or act as a resource. Do either of the following dates work? Spell it out for them. Thanks in advance, blank. So I don't even think this is the best email template. Again, I have examples coming in a second. I just wanted to show how I can take basically the same template just by replacing the passive language with stronger, more assumptive language. The tone of the email reads completely different, and you're a lot more likely to get a response to this email than that email from my experience. All right, tip number 4 is that less is almost always more, and to be as concise as possible. Every sentence and every word should add value. There should be no fillers, because oftentimes you only get a few seconds where the prospect is just kind of scanning the email. They're not even always logically reading the email sentence by sentence. They're more scanning to see, does this sound relevant to me? Does this sound like it could be worth more of my time? Does this person sound competent and like they know what they're doing? They decide if it's relevant or not, or if they need to respond or not. So eliminate all empty phrases like, I hope all is well. In that last example there, I hope this message finds you well. That's just a classic example of a sentence I don't think adds any value. It doesn't increase your odds of booking the meeting, but the 1% chance that they read it and are like, oh, another sales email, I don't have time to read this, and then they click away. And minor percent, like even if it's a 1% impact, when you're sending out thousands of emails, that makes a huge difference over time. So prospects scan these emails, eliminate empty phrases. I like to target 5 sentences. You answer who, why, what, and you have 5 total sentences, 6 max, 3 bodies of paragraph, 1 for the who, 1 for the why, and stating what you want, 1 to 2 sentences apiece. On a similar note, sound like a human. Don't sound like they don't want to feel like they're on a cadence or on a sequence, which is how a lot of these emails read. It has excessive marketing language. Being concise also helps with this. You sound like a real human when you're concise. So avoid excessive marketing language. It makes you sound like every other cold email they receive, and it sets off alarm bells. So here's some examples of phrases to avoid that. 1, make your emails less concise, and 2, they make you sound like you copied and pasted marketing material and that they're on a sequence. some of them. See how we can be an educational resource. Learn more about your role. Give a high-level overview. Sharing broad industry statistics about how you're going to improve their gross margins or increase their revenue when you know nothing about their business and it's just a cold email. They're just generally not believable. Excessive language like in this ever-changing landscape or we are empowering business twos. These are all things that it can be subconscious, but the prospect reads it and is like, another sales email. I don't really feel the need or want to respond to this. And the last thing we want to make them feel like they have to take this meeting. And it's like these things like this that make it sound like they don't have to and that you're just another cold emailer in this case. So tip number 5, this is where we drive the whole thing home. Taking all the work we did, the coiling the spring, the templates, shortening them, making them more concise, making them more relevant, doing it by persona, by department, by industry, doing all that, having it in place. So again, these are some of the ways you can do that. You have the templates pre-built. You're ready to be targeted at scale. And again, this is effective for mass outreach. So you can take those A accounts, maybe separate them, the ones you want to be more strategic with. Use this for your other sea of accounts that otherwise you wouldn't even have time to prospect into if you were doing this one by one. So here's an example of a daily schedule and how you can put this into practice. Let's just start on a Monday morning, for example. This is typically how I did it. The first thing in the morning, 8 a.m. to about 9:30, the first hour and a half a day is generally when I sent emails. I like to cold call later in the morning or the afternoon. That's just a preference thing for me. But let's just take finance and HR, the examples we've been using in this video. So take one of your finance lists. And again, this can be multiple lists too. That's why I call it group A and not list A. Maybe you have a few accounts, you have a finance list and one list has 30 people, one list has 15 people. It's okay. I more think of it as group A. It doesn't literally need to be one list. So group A, Monday morning, you send out that first email that you had coiled to your one of your finance lists or one of your finance groups. Second day, same thing, start in the morning. Maybe you choose HR, maybe you choose supply chain or some other persona, but in this case, HR, fired it off to list B. Let's call it 100 apiece because you're not changing that much. Again, you're changing their name and the name of the company and you're able to copy and paste the email template for the most part. Wednesday morning, when you wake up, you send follow-up number 1, and I'm going to show you what follow-ups I've used and seen people have success with in the past, but copy paste follow-up number 1. So you go to your sent box, scroll down to the first email that you sent Monday and start going one by one, or you can automate it. I was always a manual person, but one by one, go and send follow-up 1 to all 100 people. Again, if you're copy pasting, this shouldn't take more than like 20, 30 minutes. You're not really changing that much. Thursday morning, same thing, follow-up 1 to group B. So scroll down to in your sent box, scroll down to the first email you sent Tuesday, send them all one by one. Friday morning, same thing, wake up and then send follow-up 2. And I like to do both group A and group B that day, one by one. This is key. I get this question a lot. How quickly and how often should you follow up? I think every other day, 24 to 48 hours is what you want to be doing. Anything more than that, and it starts to feel like you're not that serious or this isn't that urgent and they don't need to respond and it feels like they're on a cadence. When you're sending short, concise follow-ups that are essentially saying, hey, please give me a response every day or every other day, that's how the prospect's like, is this important? Like, is this not the normal cold email that I normally get? So Friday, you can see here, and then Monday, wake up, send follow-up 3 to group A. Tuesday, wake up, send follow-up 3 to group B. And keep in mind that following Monday, you can both send the follow-ups and start off a new AB cadence. Start slow, like start with maybe 10 people. Then when you're comfortable with the motions, bump up to 25, then 40, 50. I mean, when I was getting good at this, I was easily able to do like 100 to 200 people every single day and run multiple cadences at once. Like you can really ramp this up the more comfortable you get with the process. Now for the follow-ups, most emails get booked over follow-ups, not the initial email. The purpose of the initial email is so that when you do follow up and you show that you're serious, these are designed to direct them down to the initial message, to get them to snap and be like, whoa, what did I miss? This must be important. And then they're going to read that first message really closely. So follow-up 1, some variation, you'll see they're all kind of similar. They're all meant to be assumptive. Hi, blank, did you get a chance to review my note below? Looking forward to speaking, blank. Follow-up 2, I've booked more meetings off some variation of this line. You can say, please give me your thoughts on this. Please let me know your thoughts. You can be a little more polite if it's a more strategic account. If you want, add a thanks. I literally just like to say, please give me your thoughts on this. It's a total pattern interrupt. They're like, give me your thoughts on what? And then they see, did you get a chance to review my note below? And they're like, wait, what? And then they scroll down and they read your first email really, really carefully. Then the third one, there's a couple options. One is a breakup style email where you kind of say, hey, let me, because you've already been pretty pushy up to this point. Let me know if this is a conversation we should postpone for a later date, perhaps early December, like name some time. So you're still kind of assuming this meeting is going to happen. Let me know. Thanks, Connor. Or another one I've tested that also kind of is a pattern interrupt, gets people to respond to, is just to say their name, like Connor, John, Elizabeth, and then they're going to see all these. But the key is follow up every other day. I like to get 3 to 4 emails in a 7 to 8 day span. And the coiling the spring, the targeted templates, the AB cadence with the copy pasted preset follow-ups is there to help you do that, to move fast at a high quality. This will start to get you lots of responses. Then a lot of them, they either book the meeting, they say a hard no, or you have to overcome some form of objection, which I have other videos on how to do over email. So hopefully this helped. Hopefully you got some value out of this. Subscribe if you did. There's a link in the pinned comment below to the SDR Accelerator where I'm the lead instructor. There's a lot more information and detail on exactly how to do this and how to filter those lists on things like Sales Nav or whatever tools you're using in there. There's also a link to coaching if you want more hands-on guidance implementing this. So hope this helped. If it did, hit the like button and I'll see you on the next one.